This is the Healing Project Journal Series. Healing and stories from real women walking in real healing.
Holding my head again, making my way through crowded thoughts. Sometimes it's hard to get out of it.
To the Healing Project. Let the healing
broke my heart in the dark.
Hi, my name is Loreal Smith, and I am a single mother of 2 boys, an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old.
What is the hardest part of single parenting?
I think the hardest part of single parenting is probably balance, which kind of couples with mommy guilt, if those two things can go hand in hand. Just being able to balance life things and then still being able to make time for your children. And because I'm a single parent, a lot of my time goes into making sure that everything is taken care of, into work and other things. And so then I'm kind of coupled with that mommy guilt of feeling like I don't make enough playtime with the boys or other one-on-one time for us to kind of build relationship, because I feel like I'm always on and I'm always working in some capacity or another.
Second question is, what was the hardest part of separation from your child's father, or was there a relationship to begin with?
There definitely was a relationship to begin with, and I think the hardest part of that separation was just trying to like pick up the pieces and still having a kid to have to provide for as well, while nursing a broken heart, essentially. I think the hardest part too is because the oldest was old enough to kind of understand like, hey, this parent isn't going to be in the home anymore, and so dealing with the child's reaction is also kind of very difficult as well. And their questions, answering their questions or lack thereof, because they may not be appropriate to answer. So just really not knowing what to say and not knowing how to deal with my emotions and the child's emotions at the same time was a big thing. Still sometimes it's a big thing.
Okay. The third question is, has the other parent moved on? If so, how does that make you feel?
Yes, the other parent moved on. The other parent moved on immediately, left our situation and immediately moved in to another situation. So that has been very hard. It's been very hard to watch the other parent give to a new person essentially everything that we were promised from, engagement or other kids. Just, the consistency, family outings, things like that, like all of the things that we wanted and asked for. So it's kind of hard to watch that happening, elsewhere, and especially seeing it happen immediately after.
Do you feel abandoned or rejected?
Definitely. I think more so now it's much better, but those are definitely feelings that still flare up from time to time. But in the beginning, abandonment was probably one of the main things that I felt, that my children felt, because it just was so sudden. Again, just like after promises of things are going to be better, and really thinking that we were moving towards something more solid, like marriage. It just was a big block, a big slap in the face, and then again for somebody to move on and move in with somebody else immediately and start this relationship so openly, so publicly, immediately, and do all of these things for another person immediately, it does leave a sense of rejection. It does leave you feeling like, why wasn't I good enough, or what did I do so wrong? But I had to realize that, even though everybody plays a part in something, that I never deserved that. My kids never deserved that.
Is it hard for you to allow another woman to possibly parent your child? If so, why?
I don't think it's super difficult. I think because of our situation and the way that it played out, with somebody who I, at the time, and maybe sometimes still feel, essentially maybe took something, even though I know it's not her fault, but, knowing somebody had a family and then not caring and then just starting your own family with them, it's kind of hard for me to just like flow into allowing that person to parent. Whereas I feel like I would be a lot more open to it if the circumstances were different, if it was, maybe under more amicable circumstances where you went your way, I went mine, and then after time, we both start other situations, and then from there. But I think because it was more of an immediate thing, and I felt like the person knew about me, they knew about my kids, it just was a little harder to swallow because I feel like you didn't care about my kids in that moment, but otherwise, I just can hope that, they're loved, they're treated fairly, and I just hope that other person loves them as if that they were their own, because I know that at some point I'll have my own person and I'm going to expect those same things from them. So what I expect from whatever man I end up with, I would hope that I could.
You are you, and this is what we're going to do.
My legs, I can't even cross my legs. Oh my God.
Okay, so we can start this one over.
I'm doing good looking in the right spot.
Yes. Okay. Is it hard for you to allow another woman to possibly parent your child? If so, why?
I think in this situation, in some ways, yes. Just because of how I feel like the situation played out. To me, I feel like it would have been a little bit easier to accept if, we had separated and then it was somebody that he had got with later on down the line. But I think because it was just so immediate and I felt betrayed, I felt rejected, I felt like the person, knew about me, knew that we had a family and kind of just didn't care and started their own, family, and kind of just broke ours up in a sense. Even though I know that it's not necessarily her fault, she didn't have any obligation to me, but I just think that that's what makes it a little bit more difficult. But I can just only hope, that they are loved, they're cared for, they are treated like, her own children, because I know that at some point I will have my own person, and those are the things that I expect from whoever I'm with. I know I can't choose all of the qualities of whoever will be a stepmother or, mother figure in their life, but I hope that whoever, it is just that they are a mother figure, that they pray over my kids, that they think about my kids when they're not away, that they would defend them and they would protect them, and that it's an easy transition from my home to their home because they feel like they have another mother while they're over there, and I'm secure enough in the fact to know that nobody will ever take my place. I just think it's circumstances that decide that, who the person is, and their reputation, their background, and things like that. And I think in my situation, those are the things that may make me a little bit more apprehensive than I would be in a different situation. But I have to kind of just deal with it and and just pray about it, because it's not my choice and I'm not able to pick who that other person is.
Okay. Is dating harder for you as a single parent?
Yes, I don't really date. I mean, I've dated a couple of people, but it's hard to know when is appropriate time to introduce people to your kids or not, and you just have to be really sure. Dating for me as a single mom is hard because I always have my kids, like they're always with me, so it's very hard to find time to make a date, to get to know somebody.
How do you incorporate God into your child's life?
I incorporate God into my children's life. One, by just, speaking of him all the time. And we do nightly devotionals. So we have like a kids Bible app on my phone, and they like to do that. We interact with that. I take them to church. They're being raised in church. And then just overall, like during my parenting, during discipline, to just bring up those things. In my house, we really like to talk about the fruits of the Spirit. I just think that that's really easy to break down to a kid's level. And just so when they may do something, whether it's good or bad, like, oh, that was really kind, that's one of the fruits of the Spirit. When they're not being so kind, are you showing kindness? Are you showing goodness? Things like that. And so the Bible tells us that we should, speak with our children all the time about his commands and who he is. And so I try to do that so that they know that this is something that we live by, but also not to make it like a thing where they don't want to be around Christ or they don't want to be Christ-centered. I don't want my children to grow up and be so worn out with God because it's like pounded in their head in a negative way. So I just try to make it like real subtle, and they kind of just pick up on it on their own.
What do you wish you would have known about being a mother before having children?
I think I just wish that I would have known I would have been a single mother. And I would have made better choices, because it's hard. It's hard. It's hard. Co-parenting is hard. On days where I don't have my boys because they're, with the other parent, I have to kind of learn how to be myself again, or find things to do instead of just kind of sitting in the house and being sad. And I just hate the effect that it's had on them. So if I wish I knew anything about parenting, I just wish that I knew that I would have been a single mother, and my kids would have had to go through some of the things that they have to, or feel some of the feelings that they've had to feel. And I just think that I would have made better choices.
What's a bad rap that single mothers have that you want to defend?
That every single mother is bitter. I think that really bothers me, especially this day and age. Like on social media, you see so many things, and it's like anything about a co-parenting situation is just so broad, and it paints a lot of single mothers as bitter, or if single mothers get child support, then they're being greedy and they shouldn't have done this, or they should have made better choices. And it's like, you don't know people's situations. You don't. And I know in my situation, even although it was a hard situation, although I did in at times do, feel this thing of abandonment and rejection, I'm not bitter. I'm not angry. I've forgiven, and none of the choices that have been made on my end have been out of bitterness. They've been because I feel like that is what is best for my children, because I know the other parts of the story. And that's a lot of things that people don't know, for child support, sometimes it's something that was a last resort. For me, that was a last resort thing. I didn't want to. I cried having to do it, but it was necessary because these are your kids and I should not have to take care of them alone. So that's one of the biggest things. I just get frustrated on social media. I get frustrated seeing things that just paint women out to be bitter. If you're not with the father, you're bitter. If you have high expectations for them, you're bitter. If you don't like the other significant other in the other parent's life, you're bitter. And it might not be because you're bitter. You just know things about that person. You know that that's not a good environment for your child. You know that they're not being put in a place where it will be the correct morals and values, or or whatever. So it's not always about being bitter. There are so many other deeper things that I feel like people need to ask questions about, or get to know before just attaching that word bitter to women, because I think it's a word that's just overused, and it's unnecessary, and it's not fair because there are a lot of women who aren't bitter at all. They're really trying to do the best for themselves, their kids, and get past whatever happened, and move forward.
What is a prayer that you've prayed in this season that you feel gave you the most comfort or that helped you the most?
I think in this season, God is truly dealing with me on control, and relinquishing control to Him, even when it comes to my children. And my prayer really during this time has just been for God to just give me the faith of Abraham when he had to sacrifice Isaac. I know that was something that was extremely, to me it would have been difficult to do. I don't know if I would have been able to do it. And just trust that, as they were going up the mountain, and he said the Lord will provide, and having to just truly believe that and repeat that to myself over and over. Or I think about a lot the situation with, I believe it was Hannah, and she wanted a child so bad, and God blessed her with that. And then when she did, she gave the child back to God, Samuel, and he stayed in the temple. He didn't even live with them. And so I pray for God to give me that kind of faith. I pray for Him to give me that kind of courage, especially during this time where co-parenting is starting to look a little bit different and my children are having to be gone a little bit more. It's hard for me. And God is just pushing me to trust Him and to trust that He will make the best decisions for me and for my children, and really just trusting Him to take care of them, because they're His children, honestly, before they're even mine.
What's a prayer that you would say, a short prayer? What is a prayer that you would say for other single mothers?
God, I pray that you would just bless, all single mothers, that you would just give them wisdom in raising their children, that you would give them peace of mind, in their day-to-day situations, that they would not become overwhelmed, that they would lean on you for strength, that you would come against all mommy guilt or outside voices, and that you would just strengthen and repair their relationships with their children.
How do you fill in the gap in your home where a father may be missing?
Lucky for me right now, I am blessed to have a lot of men around that are filling that gap for me. A lot of men from my church who just come in and they play with my boys. They, discipline them without, putting their hands on them, but men just have a different way of doing things, and just speaking to them and letting them know when they're wrong, and teaching them how to be young men and godly young men at that. So lucky for me, I have these people around in this season, and I think this is definitely the season that it is needed. So I truly thank God for that, for these men who are pouring into their lives and not even realizing how much it's helping me and my boys at the same time.
What hurts you the most when you think about your children?
What hurts the most is knowing that my children feel that abandonment, my children feel that rejection, that my children don't understand what's going on. It hurts me when my son wants his family back together and questions why his dad is no longer in the home, and that I can't change that. That there's nothing that I can do to change that, no matter how much I would want to or would want things to be different. Just knowing that I can't give him that full happiness that he wants, and seeing his tears or their tears, their anger when they're disappointed by the other parent, that's what hurts me the most for them.
What gives you the most joy when thinking about your children?
The smiles that are on their faces, the endless love that they show me, no matter what. Like, I could be yelling at them or have a bad day, and they still love me. They still come back around and hug me and kiss me. Like, they never hold it against me. They always come back around, and that just gives me so much joy, especially when I do have a lot of mommy guilt sometimes. The fact that they always come back and tell me they love me, and I'm the best mom to them, that just means the world to me.
Have you ever been judged for being a single parent?
Not so much directly. I think, again, it kind of goes back to some people who don't know me. They don't fully know my story. They only know one side of the story. Have used that word bitter. And so that doesn't make me feel good. It doesn't make me feel good for people to think that about me. But I have to remind myself that they don't know. They only were told the parts that the other person wanted to give. And so their judgment doesn't come from a place of true knowledge of the situation. So,
how do you heal yourself while also having a child completely dependent on you?
I think it's important to spend a lot of time in prayer and close to God. And I don't say that lightly, because I really don't feel like I would have been able to get through any of this if it wasn't for God, if it wasn't for literally leaning on Him for strength and for wisdom and direction, because it has been hard. And like I said, some days, although I definitely feel like I'm in a more healed place, things rise up, from time to time. But I don't allow myself to go back to that bad place. And I think that that's largely a part of keeping myself connected to people who are godly as well and are able to give me sound advice, not people who are going to give me negative advice. I have good friends that when they, see me getting into a mood or whatever, like, they don't allow me to be isolated. They are constantly there for me. They lift me up in prayer and things too. But then also, if they see that I'm not making, a good choice, or I am in the wrong, they'll call me out on it too. So it's important to have a good support system around, as well as Christ. And I think that those are the two things that have honestly kept me grounded, because if I was just doing it by myself, I wouldn't make it.
What is something you feel you need to constantly speak over your life to stay encouraged in this season?
Again, relinquishing control, because I can't be in control of everything. Even though I feel like certain things I should be able to control. But that, and just to keep moving forward, I've spent a lot of time looking in the past on shoulda, woulda, couldas, and it's just time to move forward towards joy, towards peace, towards happiness, towards my new beginnings that I feel like I've held myself back for, because I've just continued to just look backwards, and not intentionally, not that I've wanted to stay in that place. Who wants to stay in a down place? And you can tell yourself, I'm healing, I'm moving forward, but really you're stuck. And so really just trying to be more cognizant of truly moving forward, of truly moving past things, of truly not talking about the past anymore, and just seeing what the future has to hold for me and my kids. Like, our life didn't stop at that separation. I think that that's something that I really had to hold on to. It didn't stop there. It didn't stop because he didn't want me or he wanted somebody else. It didn't stop there. And I've let that hold me back for a while. So really just pushing forward to what is ahead and not looking back anymore.
That's good. Okay, so we finished all of the questions. Can you show maybe a couple pictures of you and the kids to the camera, and tell us what you remember about those pictures, or what was the memory that y'all had? Wow. But the fact that he was really tearing it up though.
He ate that.
Look at his hair, Loreal. When did he get a hairline? He got a hairline now. Tearing it up. He looks so happy though. Not the end of it. And he still like turkey legs to this day. And greens. And he'll charge me up about some greens.
This is my favorite picture of him.
He looked like a big boy.
He just was so happy.